Welcome to the Australian Business Executive Podcast, where we speak with many of Australia's most influential personalities on issues of business and economic development taking place across the country. You can stay up to date with our magazines, videos and podcasts by visiting www.theabe.tv and clicking on subscribe.
Today's guest is Francois Gouws, Managing Director of TRILITY. TRILITY is Australia's leading private water utility with water, wastewater and desalination operations spanning across Australia and New Zealand. A subsidiary of the Mitsubishi Corporation, Francois was appointed MD of Trility in 2010 and is a member of the TRILITY Group Board and several of its subsidiaries. With over 20 years in the water industry, Francois has held senior positions delivering projects throughout Australia, Africa and the United States. He is a board member of the Australian Water Association, chair of the Infrastructure Partnerships Australia Water Taskforce, director of WaterAid, and a fellow of the Australian Institute of Company Directors. Francois, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Stuart.
My first question for you is, for the majority of us, we turn on our taps and have the expectation of clean drinking water readily available. What goes on behind the scenes to ensure the delivery of safe, reliable water?
Simple answer is a lot. So if I can start off by saying water coming out of a tap is taken as a given in the advanced world. And that means that we, as an industry, constantly deliver a life-giving product with guaranteed quality at the doorstep of every user. So water and water-related services, however, cover a very broad area and relies on countless professionals to ensure its effective delivery. Now, while delivery of water to households tends to receive the most attention, I have to point out that households are just one user. For the environment requires water as well as agriculture and industry. These are all interrelated, and I will put this into context by elaborating a bit on it. There is a finite quantity of water on Earth, and it's actually quite abundant, for it covers more than 70% of the Earth. Water is, however, mostly not in the form we require it for economic usage, and at the physical place or physical point of time where we require it. I have to further point out that all water on Earth is billions of years old, with the natural water cycle ensuring that water is reused through evaporation, which is then followed by rain and natural transportation across the surface, as well as through underground pathways back to the ocean. This is, however, not a constant process, and we as humans therefore intercept this cycle by building storages and additional transportation systems which broaden the availability of water. However, overall, only around 1% of water on Earth is readily available as so-called fresh water. The demand for this limited form of water is high, and with a varying delivery, therefore makes for a difficult compromise that has to be constantly managed. And this therefore requires countless professionals. And I'm always amazed at how much dedication is afforded by so many who seek so very little recognition. I also have to point out that while the delivery of water to households receives most of the focus, an equally important and in many cases a more challenging aspect lies in collecting and treating wastewater. And I say this for wastewater, unlike potable water from households, cannot be interrupted. People keep flushing, water keeps coming down the sewers, while on the delivery side, you can for short periods interrupt the cycle when there's disruptions that take place.
TRILITY's clients are municipal and government organisations, including Sydney Water and Melbourne Water. To win tenders from these organisations requires time and scoping beforehand. So how do you undertake the process of forecasting and implementing these projects that roll over for a number of years while trying to address both the setup and legacy issues on such large projects?
Well, once again, our clients are incredibly professional. These are highly professional and dedicated organizations and we as Trility play a small part in the overall delivery that's required to ensure safe and reliable water as well as sewage collection and the overall services. You alluded to long-term contracts. In our case, we secure up to 35-year contracts. We have several of those. And it's tremendous professionalism that's required to predict what's going to happen over the life of such a contract. However, this is necessary, for it ensures that the ultimate solution chosen by our clients reflects the best whole-of-life cost. And for this, it's not only technical excellence that's required, it's the whole broad spectrum of what makes an asset or what determines the cost of an asset over its life, from technical right through to financial and ultimately the operating staff. So we as a company employ professionals in all these areas, and it's a highly sought after profession. And it requires a massive team of people to put such a contract together. And not all of them are in-house. All our suppliers, the entire value chain is required to put such a solution together.
With a business based on tendering and managing long-term projects, how do you identify new revenue streams to grow the organisation?
So in the group of companies, we have broken it down into business units to make it manageable where the specialization lies. And in our case, we have operations and maintenance, as well as Hydromet, a company that specializes in disinfection units, and then design and construction. This is all brought together by a set of professionals that are marketing or business development professionals. They, in turn, first of all, they are professionals that have been selected, and they strategically positioned throughout the market to track the trends and predict of what kind of opportunities will come up. This information is then centrally collated and exchanged, and we've got an elaborate process where new opportunities are then evaluated and budgets assigned or not, depending on our evaluation of these opportunities as they come up.
A little bit more about your personal experience. Your career has meant you've held positions in Africa, the US, and here in Australia. What are your thoughts on the similarities and differences of doing business in these regions?
Stuart, there are actually many similarities. And probably the main one of them is the passion and professionalism by all in the water sector. And it's a passion to deliver, and it's probably driven by a sense of duty and a desire to deliver and to do good for fellow human beings and the environment. And this is I found this throughout the water industry, wherever I've worked in the many continents that I have worked. Probably another similarity is that it requires a lot of skills to deliver on these services, and that's the broad spectrum of water services, and including infrastructure services. And these professionals are all dedicated, and they tend to be long-term in the industry. The people specifically in the water sector tend to all have long years of service, and that's what it requires to become a professional in the sector. If I look at probably something unique to Australia, I found Australia to be a wonderful country to work in. We love Australia, and it's filled with incredibly dedicated individuals who are well educated. It's a very above board environment to work in, and therefore a delight. The one thing on a probably a slightly, I won't call it a negative, but what I can point out, which is unique to Australia, is that it is a relatively expensive environment to work in, and that is driven in part by contract forms. In other parts of the world where I've worked in, standard contract forms are much more common, And I refer to standard contracts like FIDIC, which is the International Federation of Consulting Engineers. They have different contract forms that are identified by the color, as well as the new engineering contract, which is a British-based system, wonderful system to work on. Also, different contracts forms differentiated by the colors of their books, but they are standard and they used widely in the rest of the world, and something I think Australia can benefit and driving overall efficiencies and therefore lower costs.
Well, my final question for you today is, career-minded individuals are always looking for opportunities to expand their experience. As both a managing director and someone who sits on a number of boards, what insights can you share on ascending to this level of success?
My advice to people would be to, it doesn't really matter where you enter the industry. Any of the professions are fine. And once you're in that profession, do whatever you do very, very well. And then actively seek to broaden your experience based. More and more to ascend up the promotion ladder, diversity is sought. And diversity is a broad topic. And the one that you can definitely influence is your the broad range of experiences you bring. However, overall, personally, the one skill I really value in individuals is the ability to get things done.
Well, thank you for that, Francois. Well, that's all I have for you today. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to join us.
Well, thank you, Stuart.
This has been a production of the Australian Business Executive, a division of Romulus Rising Proprietary Limited. All rights reserved. You can stay up to date with the Australian Business Executive and our magazines, videos and podcasts by visiting www.theabe.tv and clicking on subscribe.